Now, the flip side to all of that is the Isle of Man TT, which I did this year. And I'm not a bike guy. And bike fans, like rally fans, are hardcore. And I was really nervous, more nervous than I've been about something for a long, long time. If they'd asked me to do the live, as in the live streams or live radio, I would potentially have said no, because I would have needed a lot of lead time to get my head around it. It's not like something like MotoGP where you can watch a bunch of races and get into what's going on in the season. The TT happens once a year, and if you're not following it closely, you don't have that background knowledge. So that one was much harder, but thankfully I was doing the highlights for ITV, meaning I could watch the race live, listen to the live commentary. I had a brilliant co-commentator in Cameron Donald, a great producer in Richard Nichols from Greenlight TV, who I'd worked with before with Greenlight. And so I knew I was in safe hands. So it really, it varies so much depending on what the job is. That's a super long answer for the start of a podcast, I know. But hopefully it's giving you a taste of sort of what goes into it in the background.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we talk about global motorsport, the Isle of Man TT is such an iconic event and so unique. I think there's the Isle of Man and then there's Macau, right? It's basically the only place you see any sort of racing that looks like that with bikes on streets. It's just such a brilliant event, and we tried to cover it a little bit on the show. But what stood out to you then, as approaching that as a first-time commentator? Was it just the sheer danger and the speed of it all, and just how crazy it really is that it still happens? How did you kind of process that?
Yeah, I've been to the Isle of Man a lot with Greenlight TV when I was working on Porsche Carrera Cup Asia, and actually I was lucky enough to go to Macau as well. When I think about how lucky some of the experiences have been, to have been to Macau, that was for Porsche rather than the bike week. So I was a bit overwhelmed by it. There's 40, 50 riders, and they're sending through they sent us through a commentary pack, which is the biographies, which is great. So I knew it wasn't live, so you've got time to look stuff up. And also know that when you cut down an hour and a half race into a 26-minute highlight show, you're not going to see much of it. So the biggest challenge really for me, once I realised we were only likely to see the top 8 to 10 riders, you start to recognise then that those riders use the same numbers across the different race categories. And in your head, you pick up, right, it's this guy, it's this guy, it's this guy. And you can commentate a bit more naturally, a bit more quickly. Also, I wasn't expected to be the expert. I'm a slightly strange one in rallycross in that I came from a role as a driver through then being a rally commentator as the expert, and now I'm a lead commentator, but I also have that background knowledge. So it's a bit different there. With the TT, I've just recognised I'm not supposed to be the expert, I'm supposed to be the hype guy. Cameron has won this on a superbike. I can't get near to that level, so just ask him the questions that I think the viewer wants to know the answer to. So that was what I focused on, really. And Cam is such a great bloke. We had a right laugh working on it. He's a lovely man. The other thing I had to do was try and learn the bloody track, 37.73 miles. I can't even remember how many corners it is, but it's too many. But you've only got a certain amount of camera positions. So the toughest thing for me was the heli shots and the onboards, because they can be anywhere on the circuit. Whereas around the track, I forget how many trackside cameras there were, and we would move a couple of them each day to keep the footage lively. But once you've nailed where those corners are, and I would go to the gallery, which is where the director sits, I'd watch the first race down at the grandstand in the media room with Cameron and the other presenters. I'd then go up to Greenlight TV while the second race of the day was happening, and I'd watch that race up there, but I'd be with the director and go, what's that corner? Where does that lead to? What's after that? And Cameron had also taken us for a lap in a road car, which was brilliant, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Late. And he's funny. He sent me a text message, which I can't say here, but it was to do with hurrying up, basically. I was late. I'm good at that. And he took us around the whole track in this Ford Fiesta rental car. But it was brilliant. He could barely keep up with, at 30 miles an hour, he's like, up on the pegs here, down a gear, lean the bike over, aim for the wall, you'll never hit it, full throttle, run the bike out wide, don't hit the white line, stand it up into fourth, up into fifth, over the crest, pop the wheelie. And that's at 30 miles an hour, he couldn't keep up with what he needed to do on the superbike at 160 or whatever. And it just blows your mind. The track would be, people think the Nordschleife is hard to learn. I would argue the TT is a lot harder. And if you make a mistake, obviously, the penalty is a lot harsher. So it's a unique event. I was honoured to be approached by the Isle of Man government to be a part of the broadcast team. I would love to go back if I can. It goes over 2 weekends, and so it may well clash with another series, and then it gets a bit difficult because you can't turn down a season's work for for a week's work. But that's the nature of being a freelancer. But yeah, it's a special event, and sitting at the side of the track watching them come by flat out was bonkers. It is, yeah, it's mega.